7:01 PM. Pardon me, Monday, December 14th, 2020, and this is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Asbury Park Planning Board for the month of December. Madam Chairwoman, you can call the meeting to order.
All right, we're calling the meeting to order. We're December 14th. The following meeting is being conducted by electronic means in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, amended on 2020, which explicitly permits a public body to conduct meetings electronically during the state of emergency. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coaster and Asbury Park Press. All notices are on file with the board secretary. In addition, a notice regarding this virtual meeting and instructions are published in the Asbury Park Press and City of Asbury Park website. A copy of the notice is on file with the board secretary. The notices and conduct of this meeting are in accordance with the guidelines of the virtual meetings issued by the New Jersey Department of Consumer Affairs guidelines. Please note that all microphones for public uses are muted until the public comment period. If you would like to speak during that time only, please use the raise hand button on Zoom if on a computer, or dial *9 if on the telephone. Your name or last four digits of the phone number will be called when it is your turn to speak. This is 3 minutes, one time around. So there's one opportunity during this meeting. If at any time during your question or your comment you deemed are to be out of line, we reserve the right to mute your microphone. We will make the announcement that this has occurred. Please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices during the meeting. Please identify yourself before you speak at all times. This meeting is being recorded and will be available via APTV. Please join me for salute of flag. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
and
To the
and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With liberty.
Okay, Madam Chairwoman, I'll call the roll. Pardon me. John Moore.
Here.
Yvonne Clayton.
Here.
Michael Manzella.
Here.
Jim Henry.
Here.
Jennifer Souter. Trudy Syfax. Absent. Alexis Taylor.
Here.
Present. Eric Gallipo.
Here.
Rick Lambert.
Here.
And Barbara Krizak.
Here.
Thank you.
At this time, just for the record, I'd like to note that we have 43 attendees, public attendees, which is far below what we have the capacity to have via these Zoom sessions, so we're good to go there. There's plenty of room for people to dial in if they would like to. And the first item that's on our agenda is a resolution for the H4 Holding 917. That's the 917 Asbury Avenue property.
Okay. Anyone have any comments about that one? Okay. The members who are eligible to vote on this and may vote on it are Barbara Krizak, Rick Lambert, Alexis Taylor, Jim Henry, Jennifer Souter, and Eric Gallipo. So if there are no questions, could I possibly have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
So it's Eric and Barbara. Okay, the roll call is Barbara Krizak,
Yes.
Rick Lambert,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
Yes.
Jennifer Souter,
Yes.
Eric Gallipo.
Yes.
Okay, all resolution passes and it's adopted. Okay, let me just get this. Okay. Thank you. Next is the Asbury Partners application, Madam Chairwoman.
Yes. I believe that there are some certifications that you are,
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's actually the next
At
item.
this point, Barbara, Jim Henry, I'd like to recuse myself
Sure.
Okay,
Okay, for the
so-
and
record,
withdraw from the,
so APTV, can you please move Mr. Henry into the public if he would like to go there?
okay. Okay, Madam Chairwoman, you have the certification that's up on the screen, do you not?
I do.
Okay, have you read it?
I got it, and I'll be signing it now.
All right, fine, and then I
Yes.
got, because I'm observing you signing it.
no. I don't see where it says that.
Jim,
Hey,
you
it's fine.
need
All right, let me find it.
to mute, Jim. Okay,
Here?
okay,
Just 1 second. Can we just see what's going on with Mr. Henry?
sure.
I don't know if APTV can, there he goes. Okay.
Okay,
I guess we figured that out. Okay. Do we have any other certifications we need to do, Mr. Serpico?
no, we do not.
Okay. All right, let's proceed with the Asbury Partners application for 1500 Ocean Avenue.
Okay, for the members of the public, I'm going to swear you in. I'm going to ask you all to raise your right hand. I will take your word for it, since most of you I cannot see. After you are sworn in, please state your name and spell it for the record and your address. And I would like to know for the record if you are a member of the group that is represented by Mr. Lieberman. So let's, yes.
Just one other thing.
Yes.
We did receive in our package a letter. Maybe Ms. Smith can go over these from Gibbons and
Sure.
Bill Sands.
Sure, I'd be happy just to mark for the record the letter that I sent in. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I did send in a letter at the conclusion of the meeting last week. Mayor Moore had asked for clarification about the design standard that was used for the fence, and the fence being a breakaway fence along the rear. When we went to the record, we realized that actually we had previously submitted a letter from Gill Sands last, I guess, summer of 2019 that had addressed that issue and why the fence was designed to be a breakaway fence to meet the codes required by the state for related to flooding. And so we resubmitted that letter with a letter that explains that the previously submitted letter was still correct, and that the fence was indeed designed to be breakaway to meet the flood standards. And that was what was accepted by the NJDEP when they issued their compliance letter confirming that this project complied with the previously issued CAFR permit. And so that has been marked as A75. We also, just while I'm marking exhibits, A76 was an affidavit of notice that I realized had not previously been marked. So we made sure to mark that for prior public notice that was given. That's A76.
Mr. Lieberman, you've received copies of these, correct?
Did. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Hey, it's John Moore. Could I ask a question?
Certainly.
Okay, Ms. Smith, thank you very much. And I apologize, I didn't go back to last year and see it. The question, I don't know if you're going to answer it, if anybody's going to answer, but I got to throw it out there. Okay, my problem was also about the fence itself. So, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. So the fence is on construction of timber piles, same as like the bathrooms on north of this, which are like on framing with cedar siding on it, where so it doesn't look like a fence, it looks like a house, a building, anything. So obviously, I'm assuming that this fence could be replaced by something that looks like siding or something even like would have, I'm not sure about this, that could have a stucco or a masonry finish on top of the framing, and then just again, because it's placed on piling. So it's not, doesn't have to be just a fence. It can be many materials besides the fence, because it's all on pilings, it's all breakaway, again, same as the 2 bathrooms north of this.
And I know we presented testimony in the past from Mr. Handel on that matter both times, and also Mr. Delaney, and and I'm obviously not here to testify, but my understanding is that all of those considerations were taken into account. The redevelopment plan was taken into account, and the design guidelines when choosing the materials that would be suitable for this fencing material. So I don't know that I have another answer in that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, correct, and I appreciate, again, I'm sorry, I know you can't answer it technically. I just want to throw it out there to the board and the public that it does not have to be a fence material. It could be many other materials also. Thank you.
I have just one point of clarification. This is Alexis Taylor, board member. I have no problem with the letter from the engineers. It's just the way that it was characterized. So the letter that addresses the fence states that the engineering complies with FEMA and FIP, Technical Bulletin 5, and generally FEMA and FIP design standards. It was characterized that it's consistent with the CAFRA permit, and just the CAFRA permit is a state permit. It does not review for FEMA compliance. So I just want to clarify, because I think one of the reviews that we're going to have to go through is the FEMA breakaway wall compliance, and that isn't assumed in the CAFRA permit.
Well, as far as the waterfront redevelopment plan, I don't know that it asks you to, as a board, go through the FEMA breakaway compliance. My understanding is that was a construction department standard, and that the construction department
Right. It's not a review of the board. It's actually a review of we have a floodplain management ordinance that the city passed that isn't under the jurisdiction of the planning board. It's about construction review, and it will basically, it assigns a floodplain manager that will review for FEMA compliance.
So to the extent that review would happen post planning board approval, we would certainly submit whatever the floodplain manager needed to make that.
Great. But yeah, just the characterization that somehow the CAFRA permit complies with FEMA standards, or is a check of FEMA standards, it's not true. One is a federal standard, one is a state standard. The CAFRA permit does not guarantee that it meets a FEMA standard.
I'm sure the floodplain manager can.
Yeah, the floodplain manager will handle that.
To them if that's required by the ordinance post approval.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so Madam Chairwoman, before we acknowledge our first commenter, let's get Jason and Doug sworn in case they're needed this evening. Gentlemen, please unmute yourselves. And raise your right hands. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, let's start. Jason, please state your name, spell it, and your affiliation with the board, and then Doug thereafter, please.
Jason Fichter, Fichter, board engineer and board conflict planner.
Thank you. Doug?
Doug Cleland, Cleland, Insight Engineering, board engineer.
Thank you. Okay. Ready to go?
All right, we're going to proceed with the comments portion of this meeting. Now the public, the way that we're going to go through this is that I can see the participants that are interested in making a comment. If there's a name, I will use their name. If there's numbers, I will use numbers in order to for you to be able to make your comments. The comments are 3 minutes, and we ask that we stay on topic, and you get one time around. So we'll have a timer going for the 3 minutes via APTV. So please, if you would like to speak, raise your hand via Zoom so we know how many, that we have more people coming in. Or if you are on a phone, *9, and we'll let you in at that point. I am not, the the order that I am choosing people is from top to bottom as I see them on my screen. So that's the only rhyme or reason is top to bottom that I can see. So why don't we get started?
Okay. Andy, do you have the timer available so that it can be seen by everyone? Great, thank you.
There we go.
Okay. First person, please.
All right, hang on. I just have to be able to get back to my
Yeah.
attendees. Okay, the first person I see is Polly Schlich. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. If you could unmute.
Shilga.
Hi, yes. Thank you, Eric. Yes. You just pronounce all the consonants and you get it. I'm Polly Shilga, 1100 Fifth Avenue.
Okay, Polly, please raise your right hand.
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and spell it for the record. You've already given us your address, and please let us know if you are a member of the group represented by Mr. Lieberman.
Yes, I'm a member of SAW, Save
Okay.
Asbury's Waterfront.
Okay, and please spell your last name.
S as in Sam, CHILD as in David, GE.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Asbury Park Planning Board and participants at this meeting. I do hope that you and your families are well. I am a member of Save Asbury's Waterfront, and I agree with all of the concerns raised about the pool club. I object to the construction of this club for the impact on the character of our community, and even more so, the serious environmental impact, which will affect the future of all of the residents of the city and the entire Jersey Shore. Over the last century, according to a Rutgers report, sea level along the New Jersey coast has risen more than twice the global average. Today, many of you have gotten the email that there was a community coastal flood watch stating that there may be a, quote, 1 to 2 feet of inundation above ground level through Thursday. The development along the southern portion of Asbury Park's waterfront is already at risk in future storms. To add to the development on the North Beach waterfront is a fool's errand that ignores facts and science. Incorporating open space planning and land use will serve us and the entire region with a more resilient future. I urge the planning board to reject this proposal and send it back to the city council to address the serious concerns with this project and possibly put heads together to come up with a better idea for everyone and for the environment. And I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you.
The next person in line is someone with the initials TR.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sir, please raise your right hand.
And your name.
Yeah, I'll get his name. I'll get it. Please acknowledge that your hand is raised.
My hand is raised.
I can't see you.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please state your name for the record and spell it, and your address, and whether or not you are a member of SAW.
Tracy Rogers, 1034 Sewell Avenue. And yes, I am a member of SAW.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Planning Board. I really, in making my testimony, want to make this very clear. There are personal reasons why I don't want this structure built. If you look at what is presenting historically, a private beach club that excludes people, as we have gone through all our things with racial discrimination, it reflectively shows that this city is not looking at an interest of making sure we're inclusive. But, and also if I walk by just personally, seeing the fact that that open space clears one of the most beautiful and glamorous positions to look at the water from the that has a great view. But I want to go on to my technical issues. One, we have presented many issues on this, on the specs of this project, and we believe that most of them give reason to have a different perception of what's going to happen and what they're going through. I've not seen anything that has said that the city has maintained a full stormwater plan and that has met its obligation. We have seen changes since the 2002 plan was created, and Superstorm Sandy showed us that this is a total difference. And we're looking at a building that's standing in front of us with people. And if we go back to Louisiana where the dams were set up, everyone knows those levees would collapse and people would die. Right now, why do we take the opportunity to not put something there that can risk the lives and also the damage to our community and the things that we can do? There's a building that's right next door that's empty. It's already built that we can utilize. So there's options. I'm asking this board, and I'm asking you, because there are options and that there are factors that you may not understand, but look at the integrity of your ability to, one, just not pass this, to abstain, and in your abstention, ask the council, send it back to the city council to make a decision to see if we can come up with different options, that if this plan has to be done, that it meets the criteria, the character, and integrity of this city. So all I'm asking is that the people on this board realize that there are things that I know that are challenging. Let's look at them, let's sit back, and let's restart over, because this is an ideal that can cause damage and hurt to everyone in this community. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. The next person in line is Asbury 732.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please raise your right hand and acknowledge that you've done so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name for the record and spell it, your address, and whether or not you're affiliated with SAW.
Sure. Christian Hubert, Christian, Hubert, Hubert, 401 First Avenue, Asbury Park, New Jersey. I am not affiliated with SAW or that group.
Thank you.
I just want to call in and voice my support for the pool. I think that iStar has done an incredible job working with the public and the government as far as making this a better project for everyone. And, I don't have much more to say than that, but I have to say that, if iStar were to, not allow someone to join the pool based on race or sexual orientation or religious beliefs, I'd be the first one out there protesting, with SAW. But I do think that iStar has done a phenomenal job with changing this design multiple times and is doing a great service for the city. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Next person in line is Madeline Monaco.
Good evening, Madeline.
Can you
Hello?
hear me?
Yes, I can. Please raise your right hand.
Raised.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it, and your address, and whether or not you are affiliated with SAW, please.
My name is Madeline Monaco, spelled Madeline. Last name Monaco. I live at 1501 Ocean Avenue in Asbury Park, and I am a SAW supporter.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
Okay. I live within 200 feet of this proposed pool club. The club would not hinder my views, as some people might assume, but I am opposed for a variety of reasons. I request that this application be reviewed for compliance with Asbury Park's Master Plan Reexamination Report of 2017, which highlights the higher poverty rates and lower median income in Asbury Park, the need to minimize the negative impact of economic development, the need to address racial and socioeconomic division, the need to address parking issues, and the need to address the impact of rising seas. How can we, in good conscience, endorse this application that goes against all of the above tenets of the 2017 reexamination? How does an outdated CAFRA permit get extended for almost 20 years when it was only supposed to be active for 5 years? And we have proof that the permit is invalid despite what the DEP says. How can we ignore that the 2002 WRP and the 2004 CAFRA permit rely on 1983 flood maps when the land in question is now classified as being in the highest velocity flood zone and we have seen the devastating impact of our own rising ocean. We have received no answers to our critical questions about structural engineering and operations. I'm concerned about inappropriate storm drainage, about noise pollution from parties that will likely occur with loud music, about open alcohol consumption, about a pool that is only 4 feet deep, clearly not for swimming, but for standing with drinks in your hand. I'm concerned about the safety of items on the rooftop, such as chairs and umbrellas that can become airborne on our frequent, very windy days, and about refusal to address significant parking issues in a congested residential neighborhood. We have expressed numerous concerns about the fortress-like structure. It is still ugly, it's intimidating, and it does not comply with the WRP, despite what the hired planners say. The planners have not questioned a single thing in iStar's plan. Clearly, there was a conflict of interest from the start. Why did citizens have to hire an attorney, an engineer, and a planner to ask critical questions that the city's experts should have asked? The proposed structure screams of exclusion. The primary members of this pool club, 4 blocks away from iStar's Ocean Club condos, will be their own residents and elite seasonal visitors. Why? Because they don't have enough room for both hotel and condo owners at their own pool. How does that serve the CAFR permit criteria that the clubs serve the public? Do we ignore all of the above because almost 20 years ago, a corrupt city manager and an inept city council with questionable legal advice approved a plan that does not suit our city? Please be brave and vote no to this severely flawed application for the sake of our citizens. It's time to take pause and revisit the waterfront redevelopment plan to preserve environmentally sensitive land and to be culturally and environmentally appropriate. Doesn't mean that development can't happen. It just means it needs to be more thoughtful. Let's protect what attracts people to Asbury Park, a beautiful waterfront and a unique, artistic, and diverse vibe. Send this application back to the City Council for review, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Monaco. Next person we have here is Kathleen Muma.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Please raise your right hand.
It's raised.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record. Please provide us with your address and whether or not you are a member of SAW.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Muma, KATHLEEN, address 1104 Sunset Avenue, Asbury Park. I'm a member of Save Asbury's Waterfront.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
Thank you. And thank you to the Planning Board and associated city staff for providing this forum to hear this application and its objections. Thank you to the community for their engagement and consideration of Asbury Park's future. And thank you to Jennifer Smith and the iStar team for their time spent on this process. I recognize that as objectors to your application, we've been a thorn in your side, but despite the optics, we do want to work together. We want to live in a thriving, resilient city, one that supports the well-being of its residents, all of them, while at the same time realizing a return that's congruent with the enormous risk iStar took on in 2009 when it became master redeveloper. The private pool club is merely a symptom of larger problems weighing down on Asbury Park and our country, including 1, socioeconomic segregation that is fueled by gentrification and the stratification of wealth. 2, acknowledging and dismantling racism that's baked into everything everywhere. And 3, irresponsible land development in the face of climate change. It is true that the 2002 waterfront redevelopment plan includes a private beach club, but the plan doesn't mention the 2008 financial crisis and the subsequent bankruptcy of the original developer. The plan doesn't mention Hurricane Sandy or a global pandemic and the enormous physical, financial, and emotional destruction that both of these events have caused in Asbury Park. The plan omits recognition of Asbury Park's segregationist foundation and does nothing to remediate the plague of this segregation still present today in the form of socioeconomic segregation. The authors of this plan did not know that in just 18 years, the UN would warn that, quote, humans are waging a suicidal war on nature. This plan was written a full generation ago and things have changed. We need and deserve a revised waterfront redevelopment plan. one that maximizes social inclusion and public access, one that keeps people here instead of pushing them out. We need and deserve a plan that recognizes current coastal development guidelines and is sensitive to our environmental concerns. And we need and deserve a plan that represents our city for what it is today and what it could be tomorrow. Please, we are asking you, the planning board, to be courageous and say we can do better for this community, for our community than this plan. Please refer this application back to City Council to confront the problems that are the cause of the current situation. And we're asking you, iStar, please, to draw on your capabilities and these 18 years of hindsight to partner and pivot and adapt for the future of Asbury Park. As collective stewards of this community that we have the great opportunity to reimagine, let's please make it better. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Muma. Next person is Bill McCollum.
Sir? Hello?
You're on mute, Mr. McCollum.
Have I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, terrific.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
So,
I am. Can you hear me?
yes.
All right. I'm a newbie to this. I'm
Okay.
Bill Macklin. I
Okay,
reside.
well,
in-
let me introduce you to the process. Okay, what I'm going to do is, as board counsel, I'm going to take your oath. I'm going to ask you to state and spell your name for the record and give us your address. And then I'm going to ask you if you are a member of SAW. And thereafter, I will not say a word and let you have your say. So, sir, please raise your right hand.
It's raised.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Bill Macklin. That's BILLMACKOLIN.
And your address, sir.
1701 Ocean Avenue.
Okay. And are you a member of Save Asbury's Waterfront?
Well, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, Mr. Serpico. I did contribute, and but I
Okay.
don't have any membership badge or anything like that.
That's okay. That's not necessary.
Right. Well,
Okay.
I want to add one further thing. I object to that particular question, and I
Okay.
would like the record to show that. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay. So please state your position.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm going to state why you should vote not to approve the pool project before you, that project before you. And it's based on my understanding that under law and regulation and ordinance, all but one of you must be, or by job title, residents of the city appointed to serve on this board. Well, I'm thinking about that. My question is, why not employ a credentialed, well-experienced city planner to do your job? Now, I'm not in any way demeaning your responsible service. You've done a good job. You work hard. It's not an easy position. So, but my question is, what is the reason that you are residents and not necessarily professional city planners? What is the rationale for that law? Why are you as a board overwhelmingly required to be residents? I believe the answer is clearly to enable you to serve in one or both of two disparate roles, the role of representative and or trustee. If you are representing the residents, including myself, you individually have been given a very clear message of how to vote on this proposal. You are aware that a sizable number of residents in a poll and at this microphone over the past 2 years, have expressly found fault with this proposal and have urged you not to approve it. Do you really need more to know the residents' expressed opinion? well, I would expect you to represent that opinion in your vote. If you're serving as a trustee for what we plan and build in our city, then you are the people we rely on individually to serve the benefit of all residents. You need to examine all the arguments made. As trustee, you ultimately judge the value and importance of these arguments for all residents. There are many arguments with merits in opposition to this project. If you think an argument is important, then it's important. You are the deciders. It's your decision. You will serve all of us well as trustees of what is built in this city if you vote no on this proposal. Send it back to the council where it belongs. Thank you for listening to my argument.
Thank you, Mr. Macklin. The next person is Felicia Simmons.
Hello?
I see it. Hello.
How are you? Felicia, please raise your right hand.
It is.
You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state and spell your name for the record and give us your address. And please let us know if you are a member of Save Asbury's Waterfront.
My name is Felicia Simmons, Felicia. Simmons, Simmons. I live at 1034 Sewell Avenue, front, because there's multiple properties here.
Okay,
And I am a member of Save Asbury Parks Waterfront.
great, thank you.
I've listened to everybody and I am in agreement to almost everything said today, except for the one gentleman that called in and said, build it. But other than that, there's something was briefly mentioned, and I think that this is another reason to turn it back over to the city council, is the fact that the pandemic has happened. We, being at almost all the meetings since the first one, asked what is happening inside, what is the furniture, what's going to happen, what kind of flooring, how is it designed, and we haven't heard and been given any information on those things. And now when we have such strict restrictions because of the pandemic, and we can only have 25 people outside, what exactly is going to be happening inside? What exactly are the furnishings? What the materials? What kind of air ventilation? These are all things that are prevalent to right now and not 20 years ago. These are prevalent to right now and have not been asked or addressed. This is not just the fact that I've grown up in this segregated, socially and economic segregated city my entire life, but also now it is a health disparity. Being of the African American and indigenous background, we are predisposed to COVID-19, and it's hit my community hard. So to have a place that could be a outbreak center, a place that could be, because we don't know exactly what's happening there, how many people, what kind of materials, what kind of air ventilation, what kind of system of scanning and checking that's going to go on in this facility, right? How do we know that's not going to be hurtful and deadly physically to my community and to all communities? That's something that has to be addressed. I sit on a statewide group, Intersafe Action Movement, where I have representatives from the government every day. And when I hear them in tears coming on telling me that this community would be shut down again if there was funding to tell people they can stay home, if there was health care, if there were things that would protect the community, if hearing them that we are so heavily regulated because we can't say those things. But we're going to tell a waitress to go to work for $3 an hour, right? Because they can't stay home and pay their rent. These are things, you're putting people's physical lives in jeopardy. And we can't just really and say, well, yeah, the report from last year, and yeah, because we haven't asked these questions and they have not been addressed, but they need to be. We have to be proactive, and we have to look forward for the whole of the community. And that's it. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Next person is Mike Goonan.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hello. Sir, please raise your right hand.
Raised.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Michael Goonan, Goonan. I live at 1101 Ocean Avenue, and I am not a member of SAW.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
I just wanted to voice my support for the beach club. I think that iStar and the designers have put a lot of thought into the plan and into the design. I think that Asbury Park now has this beautiful new boardwalk north of Convention Hall with nothing on it except for a sewage treatment plant. And the fact that iStar is willing to invest in our community and build something there is only positive for our community. And my big concern about this whole process is that I think things in Asbury Park tend to do better when there's a lot of public inclusion in the design process, and particularly when we hear from the planning board. We're very lucky to have such an experienced planning board. But the way this process has gone down, I think there's been such obstruction and filibustering and opposition that the lesson the developer has learned is, rather than engage with the community, let's just build something that complies with the waterfront redevelopment plan. That's a yes or a no. Does it comply or does it not? Rather than have to have a back and forth with the public. And in my opinion, from listening to all these meetings, it sounds like the plan definitely does conform with the waterfront redevelopment plan, and it would allow them to build this beach club on the lot that they privately own. One thing I want to say is I'm concerned that going forward, this is a lesson that developers in Asbury Park will have learned, that rather than engage with the public, it's better just to build what's allowed rather than what's best for the community. And the last thing I want to say is, we do have had great input from the planning board. And one thing I definitely want to echo is that in a previous meeting, the chairwoman had mentioned that there's a large white wall on the southern elevation. And she had asked the applicant if they would potentially put art there, a large mural, to make it more in line with the aesthetic of Asbury Park. And I just wanted to also support that thought. I think that there is a large white wall on the southern elevation, and art would go a long way to helping this building fit in with the aesthetic of Asbury Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goonan. Next up is Dave Michelson, I believe.
Hello?
I'm here.
Great. Mr. Michelson, please raise your right hand.
It's raised.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Dave Michelson, DAVEMICHELSON.
Thank you. Would you please give us your address and tell us whether or not you're a member of SAW?
1501 Ocean Avenue, and I am a supporter of SAW.
You've got to turn your speakers down, Mr. Michelson.
Yes.
We're getting a lot of feedback from you. I'm not sure if your mic's on too loud or.
No, we're on two computers here. That's
okay. If you could just mute one of them, then the other one should be okay.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sounds better. Thank you.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me start with referencing a NewJersey.com article from 2019 in which Brian Charipka of iStar was quoted as saying, in part, "After meeting with them, the board of North Beach, several times, we actually made sure we designed it to be a one-story structure. We were listening to their feedback and their concerns about views and things like that. So we deliberately designed the structure to address their concerns." This statement has proven not only disingenuous, but patently false. I read through applicable New Jersey law, which reads in part that a single-story building in an erosion hazard area is conditionally acceptable, provided that it meets the following conditions. The height of the building does not exceed 15 feet measured from either the elevation of the existing ground or the boardwalk. This exact language is also found in the CAFRs. I simply cannot fathom how a building, which according to iStar's own architectural drawings, shows that a 15.5-foot high from the boardwalk and 20 foot from the Ocean Avenue sidewalk, complies with this. Additionally, the roof level on the other three sides includes a 3.5-foot guardrail, which, although not opaque, does present visually as adding to the height of the structure. Even more blatantly, the bulkhead roof, which is part of the elevator structure, stretches about 20% across the length of the building. The roof is measured at almost 28 feet high from the boardwalk and 31 feet from Ocean Avenue. The imprint on all four sides far exceeds the parameters of 15 feet. And bottom line, why would a 15-foot high, one-story structure need an elevator in the first place? What the various redevelopment agreements intended as a one-story, 15-foot high structure has in effect been converted by the applicant into a full two-story high structure from Ocean Avenue, largely presents itself as well as a 31-foot high structure with the bulkhead. Even if the applicant might technically comply with all the requirements, this project does not comply with the spirit that the city has been trying to achieve in its efforts to revitalize the oceanfront area of our city by the sea. I would argue that two critical changes need to be made in order for this project to go forward, if at all. The bulkhead roof, AKA elevator shaft, must be eliminated because it raises the height to 31 feet, but also because it serves no purpose in a one-story, 15-foot structure. The Ocean Avenue side of the building is number 2, is deemed by iStar itself to be the primary frontage, whereas all members enter and has the most architecturally interesting view of the sides. Therefore, the elevation should absolutely be measured from Ocean Avenue, not the boardwalk. In light of these factors, I beseech the board to send this back to the City Council for further deliberation. More importantly, to iStar, put your money to better use. Withdraw this application. Don't build this unwanted, unneeded, ill-conceived, and divisive club that none of the residents of the city want or need. Do the right thing and move forward to other great projects like the one you've also built for us in Asbury. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michelson. Next one is Ellen Michelson.
Hello?
Hold on. Okay. Dave,
Okay.
turn your volume down. I'm trying to eliminate the echo.
Go ahead.
Turn that all the way down.
I muted it.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you still have a tremendous echo.
Yeah, bring that all the way down.
Okay, try that.
All the way down. Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, I think we finally figured out this technology between us.
Please raise your right hand.
Right hand raised.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Sure. Ellen Michelson, ELLEN, MICHELSON.
And am I correct in assuming you live at 1501 Ocean Avenue?
You are correct.
Okay, and that you are a SAW supporter.
SAW supporter, correct.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. May I point out to the board that the public's main and consistent objections to this private pool club over the past 2 years have basically fallen into the following 5 categories: promote social exclusion and inequality, impedes residential neighborhood quality of life issues, including parking saturation, ongoing environmental deficiencies and concerns, lack of appropriate aesthetics and design, and most recently, the unfortunate loss of the public's faith in the process, given the recently revealed conflict of interest involving the board planners who were part of these hearings from day one. There have been many references during these meetings to any number of existing as well as subsequently revised city plans, reports, permits, and ordinances that are incredibly challenging to the average member of the public to understand. One of these, however, Asbury Park's Master Plan Reexamination Report of 2017, contains the following citations, which I believe strongly supports many of the same points made by the public. I quote from Section 5, Visions and Recommendations. 5.1.2.1, protect and enhance the quality and enjoyment of the city's residential neighborhoods through policy and regulation that promotes quality of life and minimizes negative impacts from the city's tourism and other economic development activities. 5.1.2.8, address Asbury Park's historic racial and socioeconomic divisions that continue today through policy and regulation of the built environment, with the understanding that the built environment can exacerbate or alleviate such social divisions. 5.1.2.10, manage vehicle parking throughout the city in a manner that is safe, convenient, protects the character of the area, and can accommodate future changes in the paradigm related to parking and transportation systems. 5.1.2.17, create resiliency and adaptation measures to address the impacts of climate change, including but not limited to rising seas in the city's physical and social infrastructure. In the context of quality of life protections in residential neighborhoods, despite these 2 years of hearings, we still do not know any of the following: the proposed months and hours of operation, nor the amount of noise that may be generated around the neighborhood when members pour out at closing time, the maximum allowed capacity of this club, nor how many more cars can be expected to bring into an overly saturated North End parking area, whether there will be live music, during what hours that might be allowed, if the sound will be amplified, or how much additional noise that could generate from the open rooftop, whether there might eventually be a liquor license granted for the snack bar, and how much more noise that could generate, whether the club's proposed sound mitigation has ever considered the natural echoing of all this potential noise taken together, and how that may impact the numerous beachfront and courtyard-facing units of our North Beach community and surrounding areas. Ultimately, there may be numerous loopholes and stretched interpretations that iStar has taken advantage of in arguing the legality of this membership-only private pool club. But in the end, does that really translate to being in the best interests of the city and all its residents? In the end, this proposal is simply the wrong project in the wrong place at the wrong time. I hope you will listen to my voice as I strongly urge you to vote no on this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Michelson. Next person is we have Pam Lamberton.
Hello?
Hello,
Pam, you there?
I am.
Okay, please raise your right hand.
It is.
Thank you. You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Pam, please state your address, spelling of your name first, of course, your address, and whether or not you're a member of SAW, please.
Okay. Pam Lamberton, Lamberton, 321 Sunset Avenue, and I am a member of SAW.
Thank you.
Residents of Asbury Park be damned. At least that's what it feels like. Because well-meaning and informed residents have expressed objections to and concerns with this application for 2 years, much of which seems to have fallen on deaf ears because the applicant has conceded only a modification to the Ocean Avenue facade, and that's about it. To our fellow residents, we apologize. We seem to have failed you. You will not get a more cohesive city. You will not get a facility that says everyone come instead of members only. You will not get a structure that appears to be about a third of the mass of what was proposed to be built. You will not get 4 attractive and compliant facades as required by the WRP. You will not get environmental protections from storm surges and massive destructive hurricanes. You will not get any information on how the club is to be run or what will go on there. You will not, unless the planning board requires these things. And well beyond this one application, damn the pool club, beyond this application, you will not get development based on current data and up-to-date flood maps. You will not get affordable housing, which would mix rather than divide our city along economic and racial lines. You will not get additional parking. Remember, those paved lots on 7th and Ocean and around the Carousel House are temporary until the developer wants to build. You will not get construction and development consistent with the planning board's own 2017 master plan. You will not get construction aligned with the governor's directive to limit or end construction on New Jersey's coastal and inland waterways. Unless the planning board requests the city council to renegotiate the waterfront redevelopment plan. We claim that the CAFRA permit provided by NJDEP is outdated and most likely expired or void. But it is this CAFRA permit which the applicant is basing waterfront construction requirements on, except one issue, only one, that being that the lowest allowable floor level must be 15 feet above ground level. So this applicant has been allowed to cherry pick one new state requirement, but at the same time bind us to the other requirements in the 2002 permit. Either hold the developer to the 2002 permit or defer all to the new state requirements. But you will not get this unless the planning board requests the city council to void the CAFRA permit originally issued jointly to the city of Asbury Park and Asbury Partners and asks for a new one. So I guess it's still not determined if we succeeded or failed in encouraging responsible development. It's up to the planning board, but we will continue our quest. Thank you to the planning board, always inquisitive, and thank you to Jennifer Smith, always respectful.
Thank you, Ms. Lamberton. The next person is Carrie.
Hello? Hello?
Carrie? Unmute? Maybe we should come back to Carrie? Unless APTV, you can help us out with unmuting, unless, or is it an issue with the attendee?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All right, it took me a while. It took me a little while. How are you?
Okay.
Okay, Carrie,
Yes.
please raise your right hand.
Okay.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name for the record and spell it.
My full name is Kerry Butch, Kerry. My last name is Butch, Butch, and I live at 500 Deer Lake Drive.
Okay, and are you a member of SAW?
I am.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay. My name is Carrie Margaret Butch. I'm a 20+ year resident of the city of Asbury Park. I'm a board member of the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance. I also served as the executive director of the Asbury Park Consortium and the urban project director of the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions. I strongly oppose this application. It's kind of ludicrous that during a global pandemic, when people are losing their lives and businesses as a result of a virus, that we in Asbury Park are fighting a luxury pool club. But it's a noble fight. It will take nearly an entire block of open space on the waterfront. Ironic, but open space produces public health benefits, right? Something that's important to us right now. This is a pool club that most Asbury Parkers won't be able to afford to enjoy, and our kids won't learn to swim in. In 2002, an inept city council in partnership with a corrupt city manager brokered a bad deal. Asbury Park was sold for a song, and the planning process began, but never in earnest. We can't forget that that was supposed to be a public-private partnership. So right now, I'm compelled to remind you of what the residents of Asbury Park paid for, what their public investment was. They paid for it with 453 apartment units, 22 single-family homes, 18 businesses, and 2 churches. And that was thousands of lives that this impacted, this waterfront redevelopment plan. So when the gentleman before spoke about the investment that iStar made, it pales in comparison to the investment that the citizens of Asbury Park paid. So I want you guys, the members of the planning board, you have a lot on your shoulders. You carry that weight. You carry that weight of the dreams that never never came true for a lot of people. So it's time for iStar and the city to finally agree to renegotiate the city's 2002 waterfront redevelopment plan. Vote no on this, and please send this application back to the city council for negotiations. I thank the planning board and the petitioners for your patience and perseverance. And as always, I thank the incredibly intelligent, awesome, compassionate members of the Asbury Park community that fight, even during a global pandemic, to make sure that our city remains inclusive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Butch. Next person is Jeff. I won't even try to say your last name.
Good evening, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jeff Louisot, Louisot. I am a resident of 1501 Ocean Avenue, and I am not affiliated with Save the Waterfront, although I do follow them on Instagram.
Okay, so why don't we have you raise your right hand?
It's raised.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you for your time. I love Asbury Park, and I think everybody on this phone call and meeting loves Asbury Park. There is no place like it, not only on the Jersey Shore, but anywhere in the world, I feel. To walk down the boardwalk on any night and see such a diverse group of people, families, older, younger, folks that have been here for a long time and folks that recently got here. I moved here in March, and it's been my wife's and I dream to move here. While I agree with all of the environmental issues that have been cited, I'm not going to go through them all. I can't stress enough how important they are. But I do want to go back to one of the issues earlier that was raised regarding the sound. And during one of the meetings recently, I had brought up and asked a few questions specific to the fact that where we are looking to put this pool club is one of the largest wind tunnels in Asbury Park. And we asked if a sound study was done on how it was going to impact the residents should the building be built. And the answer, I believe, at that point was no. A follow-up to that was if we can get a little bit more detail with respect to the materials, if there was any soundproofing that was going to be happening. And we also kind of got a no on that. So I think this is going to have a terrible impact on the residents and the visitors. You know, the congestion, the traffic, the littering. I'd like to cite really two articles from last year, one from the Asbury Park Press, which stated that some Asbury Park families can't afford beach passes, so the community raised money for them. That's June 2019. Same year, New Jersey 101.5, Asbury Park is a great waterfront beach, but residents can't afford it. It's really just amazing to me that we could, in this time, in this city, be talking about an exclusive luxury beach club. This is a town of inclusion. You look at the history of this town dating back to its founding. And I was just reading an article today about how folks want to bring down the statue of James Bradley in Bradley Park for his segregationist views. That's what's happening here, guys. What does it say if we segregate this beach? You know, this town through the 1950s did not have inclusion. We had a chicken beach, and I really feel that this could be the next chicken beach. And I ask and implore the council to do the right thing here and vote no. Please vote no. Let these pools and towns, every other town has it. This is what makes Asbury Park special, that we do include everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lusat. Next person is Linda Phillips.
Hello?
Unmute. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand.
Yes.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record and spell it.
Linda Phillips, Linda Phillips.
Your address, please.
400 Deal Lake Drive.
And are you a member of SAW?
I'm a supporter of SAW.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay. I can in no way be as eloquent as some of the previous speakers have been in laying out all of the many reasons why this project needs to be rethought out. It's just they're environmental, they're social, they're too many to even. It's taken all of so many people to speak about this, so much time, so much research, and I can't believe that we haven't had 1 ounce of movement on the part of the developers on these questions. And so many things remain unanswered, as the previous speaker was saying. They don't answer questions about what it's really going to be like when they build this thing. Why is that? Why is that so secret? It doesn't seem that a building that's going to have such a secret existence should be allowed. I think the city deserves to know what is really being intended with the building of this building. And as other people have also stated, and something I feel really strongly about, I was here when that decision was made in 2002 with this development, the developers that existed back then. And the city residents didn't support it then, and we didn't have any power to stop it. And we don't apparently have any power now if we can't get you, the planning board, to listen to us, to the multiple numbers of people who have come out over these years to say, please don't build this. This is just so out of line with what we want our city to be. We have a right to have our city be something that we want to live in, that we've lived here for all of these years, and we should have some sort of right to say the kind of thing that gets built. So please, I beg you to send this back to the city council and let the current city council, under the current situations that we live under with new environmental issues and new social issues that didn't exist back in 2002, to let them renegotiate something that fits more in line with what we really would like to have in this city. That's my statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. City historian.
Hello?
Hello, Jack.
Hi, Warner. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, you know the drill. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
So Warner Baumgartner, WERNER, BAUMGARTNER.
And your address, please.
402 Fifth Avenue.
And are you a member of SAW?
No, I'm not.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I logged myself in as usual as the city historian, and I do that intentionally because I do represent the history of the city from an official capacity. And I would just like to remind all the board members, the planning board members, that I don't think any of them were personally involved in the creation of the redevelopment plan. I don't recall seeing any of you at any of the meetings that I attended, that I participated in directly in the creation of this plan. So I'm going to urge every one of you to think very seriously about your decision and what knowledge base you have to make that decision. You would have been required since then to read the redevelopment plan and compare those minimum standards that are in that plan with what is being presented before you. I've testified previously at great length about the architectural standards and how this particular proposal does not meet the minimum architectural standards. It's a shame. It really is a shame, because that was one of the guiding principles of the creation of the waterfront plan back when it was made. Architectural excellence. Having blank walls, north, south, and east, is not what the plan envisioned. It envisioned lively frontages of buildings that engaged the public. I know the suggestion of putting a mural on a blank wall has been entertained. It's still a blank wall. Paint on a blank wall is still a blank wall. Windows, doors, storefronts, concessions engage the public. This building does not. In addition to that, the openness of the building lends itself to creating a lot of disturbance to that part of the beachfront. I would suggest that this should be an enclosed public pool or an enclosed private pool. Anyway, it should not be open the way it is. If the facades on all four sides were properly done in accordance with the minimum standards, and if the building were enclosed to contain any adverse effects to the public, I think this would be much more palatable. So please, if you have never actually read the redevelopment plan architectural standards, or perhaps you have and you don't understand how they apply to interpreting this building, please either abstain or vote no. Vote your conscience. All of you members are up there to represent the public, and the public document is the redevelopment plan, regardless of feelings, either personal or the feelings of anyone testifying. Thank you.
Next person up is Ms. Catherine Healy.
Hello.
Hello. Hold on one second.
Sure.
Okay, Ms. Healy, please raise your right hand.
Okay.
You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Sure. Catherine, Katherine, Healy, Healey, 305 8th Avenue.
Are you a member of SAW?
I support.
Great. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay. First, thank you to the planning board members, city officials, iStar, and the public for your time and consideration in this process. Tonight, I speak not only as a mother, an educator, and an Asbury resident, but as someone who truly loves the city and her people, as I'm sure everyone who has commented over the past 2 years shares. The fact that so many people from all parts of our city and region have shown up and shared their concerns is proof enough that many are committed to a more equitable and environmentally sound future for our city. The question tonight is, who else is with us? When you look back in history at certain cities and societies that have failed, many share the common bond of not learning from their mistakes and possessing an inability to adapt for the future. Although it may seem easier and more immediately advantageous to continue business as usual, basic economics shows us that the greatest return comes from investing in our future. A coastal city that invests in an equitable and environmentally sound future is one that will be around to reap the benefits of its socially and environmentally diverse landscape. Because of this, I am asking the planning board to be bold and to send the private pool club proposal back to the city council and for iStar in the city to rework the waterfront redevelopment plan for the world we are living in today, not the distant world of 20 years ago. Pragmatically speaking, planning boards across the US have rejected proposals because of flood zones, environmental concerns, public opposition, traffic issues, lack of transparency, and on socioeconomic reasons, all of which this proposal encompasses. But in the larger picture, Asbury Park is a small city with big issues to face. We are a divided city rooted in racist and classist ground that is still being played out today. Despite 1/3 of our residents living below the poverty line, home and rent costs are rising, employment is lacking, and our own residents have stated that they do not feel welcome in their own city. We are also a coastal city that's predicted to have a sea level 13 to 14 inches higher in 2030 than what it was when the waterfront redevelopment plan was written in 2002. Despite any technicality or rubber stamp, we all know this proposal is also based on almost 40-year-old flood maps and an outdated CAFRA permit. What was the point in surveying residents and then declaring in the 2017 master plan reexamination report that we need to address the racial and socioeconomic divisions, poverty rates, and well-documented rising sea levels if we aren't actually going to do these things? Any division in our country and city has only been made deeper and more apparent by the pandemic. But if 2020 has taught us anything, is that change is possible even when it feels impossible. This year, we've all had to adjust, adapt, and get creative. Let's keep that up. Let us build on what makes Asbury beautiful, our people, our vibrancy, and our coastline. These are all our greatest resources, and without them, what is the value of our city? In order for Asbury to not only survive, but thrive, we must honestly address our racial and social divisions and environmental vulnerability. Sending this proposal back to the City Council and reworking the waterfront redevelopment plan is an outstanding step in that direction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Healy. Someone by the name of Arms. I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure how to say your first name.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
We're getting a lot of feedback. Do you have multiple devices on?
Yes, we're turning it off.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Arms, please raise your right hand.
Hello?
Hello? Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, can you
Sorry.
hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, please raise your right hand.
Yes,
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Okay, please state and spell your name for the record.
Janet Dolan, Dolan.
And your address, please.
1501 Ocean Ave, and I am a supporter of SAW, but not a member.
Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I am strongly opposed to the beach club for many of the reasons presented here tonight. And I add my voice to these significant, hard to ignore, and hard to overcome problems, such as lack of parking, social exclusion, environmental impacts, and lack of transparency on the hours of operation. I can summarize my opposition with the following 3 points. 1, I've attended all the prior planning board meetings and had yet to hear one person's voice support for this project. In fact, I submit that the only people in Asbury Park who could possibly support this project are the residents of the Ocean Club, since apparently membership to the beach club is provided to them free of charge for a few years. I think we've heard from one of them tonight. 2, I believe the one thing that iStar, everyone on this planning board, every citizen of Asbury Park, and everyone at this meeting tonight can agree upon is that the waterfront redevelopment plan and its many revisions over time was put in place to benefit the people and the city of Asbury Park. While the WRP was created in a different era, its intent should remain intact today. This application runs contrary to both the spirit and the letter of the WRP in many respects, such as violating the principle, in quote, to prevent parking and traffic problems, close quote, and it's not maintaining the quiet nature of the north area. And lastly, point number 3. Everyone loses if this application moves forward, including A, the people of Asbury Park who cannot afford to join this beach club. B, the day trippers to Asbury Park who will tire of looking for parking and go elsewhere. C, the stores and restaurants in Asbury Park whose businesses will suffer as people find other places to shop and eat. D, the tax revenue to Asbury Park, which will drop due to these failing businesses. And E, finally, the shareholders of iStar will also lose, since it's only a matter of time until Beach Club members will have absolutely have had it with paying dues for a private club where they must arrive incredibly early on a weekend morning to park or face the stress of having to find a non-existent parking space. How long does iStar think their members would put up with this kind of hassle while paying top dollar for a membership? I submit the memberships will plummet once people realize that belonging to this beach club is just not worth the money or the hassle. In addition, iStar has a major blind spot on this issue as they ignore the inevitable parking dilemma and continue to parrot at every planning board meeting that, quote, parking is not required under the WRP, close quote. In short, the city and people of Asbury Park have much to lose and nothing to gain from this proposed beach club. I strongly urge the planning board to reject this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Michael Kushner.
Hello? Mr. Kushner?
At least Mr. Kushner's name is on the screen if somebody else is using that. Mr. Kushner? All right, we can, let's put Mr. Kushner back, if you don't mind, and we'll circle back to Mr. Kushner. The next number ends in 124. There's a phone number that ends in 124.
Hello?
Hello? If you could unmute, if your phone number ends in 124.
Hi.
Hello.
Is it 5124?
Yes, it is.
That's me.
Okay.
Rita Morano.
All right, hold on, Rita. Please raise your right hand.
Okay.
Okay, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please state and spell your name for the record.
Rita, R-I-T-A, Morano, M-A-R-A-N-O.
And your address.
504 8th Avenue, Asbury Park.
Okay, and are you a member of SAW?
A supporter.
Okay, thank you. Your floor is yours.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm probably the oldest member here. I'm a resident of Asbury Park for 60 years. I've seen it come and go and come and go. But aside from that, I was here in 2002 when the plan was put together. This plan should have been abandoned a long time ago. You have many, many, many amendments to the plan that we're not privileged to see or hear because they're done at the executive session. I guess we can research them. But you have amended so many times, and this is the one time when taxpayers want it amended, get rid of it, and you keep having all these meetings on it. I think Mr. Serpico said there were 16 meetings over this. The other thing I wanted to say, there used to be 2 pools here. Neither one of them were private, and they were at the beachfront. The Asbury Towers sits on top of one of them, the Monte Carlo pool, and the 7th Avenue pool was right next door. There's no reason to put this pool in this location. It's sitting there like a sore thumb, and I remember one of the planners that came, Mr. Gonzalez, he said it's the ugliest building he ever saw, and he was an experienced planner. So that's number one. Two is, I was here in 2002. I don't think anybody that's called in or anybody sitting on that planning board had was here then, as Werner said. We saw the plan come together. We were all aware of it. We all had input in it. It was months and months of hearings. And the day it was decided was the day that the city manager resigned and was sent to jail. He went to jail for 5 years. This plan should have been looked at right away that day. But of course, we had a different council that really, I don't know what they were thinking. I shouldn't say anything bad about them. I guess they did the best they could. But it should have been dropped right then and there in 2002. It's not a good plan for the city. It encompasses too much land, and they took property away from people, in case you don't know it, with eminent domain, which is only to be used if you want a school or a highway. It's not to be used to take land away from people that have worked all their lives to build a business and take it away from them and give it to somebody else. This is all wrong. They knocked down buildings. We have lost millions of dollars. And I can name 2 buildings. One on 8th Avenue where we lost $65,000 over 10 years ago. Imagine what that would have brought us. And then the building behind the Wonder Bar, that was paying $45,000. And they were 2 beautiful buildings. But because the developer didn't want to pay taxes on them, so he knocks them down and pays hardly anything. It's really tragic what happened here. And I'm really upset over it now, even 13 years later, that I lost my business. But this plan has that pool is sitting there like a sore thumb. It doesn't enhance the property across the street, which is a beautiful building. I mean, I don't know what this planning board is thinking. I mean, and you talk to people, I've listened to a lot of your meetings. You're all very personable. You call each other by first names. Even the developer, you call them by first names. I never heard of such a thing. Usually you're more formal when you're trying to do business. And it's just it's very sad that people that live across the street from this building that's going to go up, maybe, have to look at that. Just think about them for a minute. They're paying high taxes too. We all are. But we want to live in a better place. And that's not a better thing for Asbury. If you built the pool, a public pool first, why all of a sudden, what's that about? Everything's private. It's just unbelievable what's going on. And I lived through a lot in 60 years, what's going on in the city. But I happen to love it, and I love living here. But it's just, this planning board, you don't know anything about that plan. Like Werner said, I don't know how many of you have read it. We read it so many times. And half the things that have been done aren't even in the plan. They've deviated from the plan. Just like we're up on the top by where we used to have the music upstairs in the band shell. Go look at that band shell. It used to be a beautiful band shell. Now it's about 2 rows. It used to be about 20, 30 rows. People would go up there and sit there and listen to beautiful music. We don't have that anymore. Now they have 2 rows and the band shell. Nobody goes up there. Everything they've done. I've been here since Carabetta, Asbury Partners, and now iStar. I mean, and every one of them has taken advantage of every piece of land in this town. They're land grabbers too. They do what they want. We took out a $50 million bond for them, which they're paying back, but they couldn't take it out. No, we had to take it out. The city of Asbury Park, $50 million.
Ms. Marino?
Yes? Yes.
But do you have a final statement you'd like to make?
That's it. I just hope that this planning board, instead of always saying yes, 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 says no, no, no. I'd like to hear that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Surfrider chapters.
Hello?
Me. That's John Weber with the Surfrider Foundation.
Okay. Mr. Weber,
Yes.
you raise your right hand.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I'm 313 Lorraine Avenue in Bradley Beach, New Jersey.
Okay, well, let's take it in order. Please raise your right hand.
Mhm.
You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
John Weber, JohnWeber.
And your address, please?
313 Lorraine Avenue. That's Lareine Avenue in Bradley Beach, New Jersey, 07720.
Thank you. Are you a member of SAW?
No, but my organization was a supporter.
That's fine. Thank you. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much, sir. Like I said, I work for the Surfrider Foundation. We are a coastal environmental group. You know, I don't live in Asbury Park. Some people that are volunteer leaders of the Jersey Shore chapter, I think you will hear from them later. Outside of my work with Surfrider Foundation, I have served on a planning board for 11 years. I know some of the members probably feel like you've been hearing this application for 11 years, so I will try to be brief. Surfrider Foundation has always been concerned with coastal development, often due to the effects that it has on adjacent beaches. These days, we're even more concerned with coastal development in the light of climate change and sea level rise. The pace of climate change is unlike anything we've experienced in human history. Quite frankly, we're in a different world than we were in, and in a different mindset that we were in 2002 when the city made this redevelopment plan. So speaking of 2002, and with respect to Ms. Rita Morano, I was coming to city council meetings in 2002. Why? Because in 2002, surfing was illegal in Asbury Park. Think about that for a minute. The sport of surfing was illegal in Asbury in 2002. And my organization changed that in 2003 by petitioning the city government. I just bring up that point to show how much things have changed in the last 18 years since 2002. Now, Surfrider puts out a State of the Beach report, which looks at coastal development and planning. And New Jersey got an F from my organization in 2019, and we got a D- in 2020. This is mostly due to the lenient standards of CAFRA, meaning almost anyone that asks for a CAFRA permit gets a CAFRA permit. That is why New Jersey looks like New Jersey. Another part of the bad grade is New Jersey's rules on armoring, or making hard structures and seawalls, that is protecting coastal development with these hard structures. So states that do a much better job on our State of the Beach report, like California, they have a coastal commission. They have a statewide body that decides what can be built in the coastal zone. Now, in a home state rule like New Jersey, there is no big picture. There is no consideration of cumulative impact. There's no one body that's looking at this for all up and down the coast. Another way of saying this is that our coasts are suffering death by 1,000 cuts. So in terms of climate change and sea level rise, Asbury Park would undoubtedly be better off with less development on the ocean front. And in the coming years, I believe the city is going to have to face the incredibly hard question of how do we relocate the existing development on the ocean front, or at least how to pull it back. So, you know, we have this crazy system in New Jersey where anyone who asks for a coastal permit gets a coastal permit that overdevelops the coastal zone. And then we have a system where it's very easy to get a permit to build a hard structure to protect that. So what that does is you may be successful in protecting the development, the private property, but what's going to happen is that the public resource, that is the beach, will disappear. Hard structures, seawalls, that makes a beach disappear. Just go look in front of Convention Hall. There's no beach there because hard structures, rocks were put there. So the Asbury Park Planning Board cannot do much about CAFRA or other state rules, but it can decide on a particular application such as this. So I agree that Asbury can do better, and this is and they can do better on this project, and in far more ways than just the environment. You can renegotiate with the developers, get a new waterfront plan. I urge folks to vote no and to send this back to the council and renegotiate your whole oceanfront development plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Next person we have is Catherine Murphy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good evening. I'm Catherine Murphy, 510 Deer Lake Drive.
Ms. Murphy, hold on 1 second, please. Please raise your right hand.
Okay,
You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Catherine Murphy, Catherine, Murphy, Murphy.
And your address, please.
510 Deal Lake Drive.
And are you a member of SAW?
I am.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening. First, I want to thank the Planning Board and ISTAR for their time and attention during this entire process. I concur with comments expressed this evening by my fellow community and SAW supporters opposed to the proposed pool club. I'm here to make one point regarding the objections to this application. For the record, I would like to make clear most objectors to the proposed pool club do not live in the North Beach condominiums. They are not objecting because they are concerned about losing their view. Most objectors that you have heard testify are from a broad swath of the city, and their concerns are far-reaching in terms of social, environmental, and transparency issues. I too am opposed to this application, and my hope is that the Planning Board will deny this application and send it back to the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. The next person up is Mike.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can't hear him.
Hello?
Hello. Sir?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Hold on 1 second, please. Okay. Sir, please raise your right hand.
Yep.
You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Mike Szorek, Mike, last name S as in Sam, Z as in zebra, C as in cat, Z as in zebra, Urek,
Your address, please.
305 8th Avenue.
And are you a member of SAW?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Floor is yours.
Okay, just to start off, I oppose the approval of the pool club, and I agree with everything that the supporters of SAW and SAW has said so far. Just a couple points. One, I think that the club is a poor use of space that's directly adjacent to the city's most valuable public resource, which is the beach and the boardwalk. ISTAR and the city are supposed to be in a partnership regarding the waterfront development, and I urge the board to think about the long-term effects for the city. What ISTAR is proposing is to wall off an entire block of the boardwalk for the use of maybe a few hundred people a year. Despite the fact that ISTAR owns the land, the development is inches from the boardwalk. People come to the city for the public spaces on the boardwalk. The approval of the project will have a negative effect on the appeal of the city and the potential visitor revenue for the city in the long term. Two, ISTAR hasn't given the public or the board enough information. We still don't know how many memberships will be offered, who they'll be offered to, what the hours of the club will be, what months the club will be open, will they be providing food and drink services to members on the beach? Will they be staking out spots for members on the beach? I think ISTAR knows all of this information. We know they have detailed financial models and plans with all the information, but they're unwilling to share it because the public outrage that it would cause. So prior to any development on the waterfront, the public and the board should have all of this information. And my last point is that I just find it sadly ironic that a billion-dollar developer is on the verge of building a private pool club for millionaires on the same boardwalk made famous by Bruce Springsteen, the working man's hero. What this project says to 99% of residents in town is that we don't care about you. And I urge the board to make a bold decision, put residents first, and reject this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next person up is ends in 509. This is, from what I understand, this is Michael Kushner that we had to skip before. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Kushner.
Jack, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And I have my right hand raised.
Thank you very much. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Michael Kushner, Kushner, and I live at 1100 Fifth Avenue, Asbury Park.
Thank you. Are you a member of SAW?
I am not, but I do support Saw's cause.
That's fine. Thank you. Your floor is yours.
Thank you. So, hello, Planning Board. I share many of the concerns of my fellow residents and reject the approval of this application. And one of the main reasons I object to this pool club is because I fear that if this application is approved, the board will be hard pressed to reject future applications. And I just am concerned about how North Beach will look 5-10 years from now as a result of approving this application. So New Jersey is considered the most developed and densely populated shoreline in the country. And out of a 130-mile distance between Sandy Hook and Cape May Point, there are only 31 miles of shoreline with no human development between the salt marshes and the sea. North Beach is one of the largest remaining coastal open spaces in Monmouth County. So this is a gem within our own community. And rather than squander it, I really feel that we should protect it. Instead of a developed North Beach, imagine a living shoreline, coastal park, that has native plant species, habitats for our diminishing wildlife, dune structures built to help mitigate flooding and beach erosion. Preserving North Beach would also provide much needed open space in our community, which I think is sorely lacking. I don't know if Asbury Park has an open space and recreation plan, but in doing a little research, it's defined by the Green Acres program within the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection as a local government's vision of open space and recreation. It should establish a philosophical and practical justification for the protection and preservation of open space and recreation opportunities. And OSRP provides a framework for implementation. So the waterfront is one of Asbury Park's greatest assets, and shore protection is the science and strategy of devising methods, structures, and practices that together promote the art of living safely within a geologically unstable environment with the constant threat of storm damage, which is the realities that we live with, especially here in Asbury Park in New Jersey. So I urge the planning board to have the foresight and the vision to reject this application and consider the possibilities of what North Beach can be. Thank you, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kushner, for your patience and some technical difficulties. The last person that I have here is Mike Castellano, Surfrider Foundation. And
sir?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Hold on one second here. Okay, please raise your right hand.
It's raised.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And what is your address, please?
625 Cookman Avenue, Asbury Park.
And could you please spell your name for the record?
It's Michael Castellano, Castellano.
Okay, and are you a member of SAW?
I am not, but I am a supporter.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
So I just wanted to echo Kathleen Muma's earlier statements. The plan does not include a global pandemic. It doesn't include the rash effects of climate change. It doesn't include freak storms, and it doesn't include the financial crisis that we're in right now. If you take a walk down the boards of Asbury Park, you walk through Convention Hall, you'll see that vacancy is slowly settling in, and a new private pool club is not the answer to continued revival or quite possibly survival. Our efforts should be really shifted in the direction of working with what we have versus new, unnecessarily and environmentally irresponsible development. New policies signed into law this year will not take effect until 2022 as far as development goes. And so we have a chance to really be pioneers and showcase the ability that we have to adapt to climate issues facing the Jersey Shore. If this truly was an inclusive project of Asbury Park's community, then we would be taking into consideration the community itself here and what the community is going through, and small businesses, restaurants, and everybody affected by the current financial crisis. Again, new development is not the answer right now, and I don't think it will be for some time. And so I really think that this plan should go back to the city council. And again, iStar should creatively work with us and work with the city council and the planning board to really get creative and find a way to develop in spaces that we already have. So that's it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Castellano. I would like to, at this point, there are two more people that are in line to make comments. But at this time, I would ask that the board take a small break, and we will be back to hear the last few people that have comments, and then to hear the attorney's closing remarks. If anybody else does come into play for comments, then we will certainly call on them. But at this point, we have two. Okay, so
We have a motion for a recess.
motion to recess, please. I move it.
So moved.
Who was that? Who moved it?
Alexis Taylor.
Thank you, Alexis. And the second was Michael Manzella? Yes?
Yes.
Oh, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, Michael. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. John Moore?
Reluctant, yes, I would have just as soon kept on going, but yes.
Okay. Yvonne Clayton?
Yes.
Michael Manzella?
Yes.
Jennifer Souter?
Yes.
Alexis Taylor?
Yes.
Erica Lipo?
Yes.
Rick Lambert?
Yes.
And Barbara Cusack.
Yes. Let's get back. Let's come back at 9 o'clock.
Great. See you at 9. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Serpico.
Sure. Okay. John Moore. John?
Here.
Yeah, all right. I'm calling the roll.
Here.
Okay. Yvonne Clayton.
Here.
Michael Manzella.
Here.
Jennifer Souter.
Here.
Alexis Taylor.
Here.
Erica Lipo.
Here.
Rick Lambert.
Here.
Barbara Cusack.
Here.
All members accounted for.
I'd like to just bring something up that I noticed that one of the members of the public had their hand up, and I don't know if they meant to have it come back down. The person's name is Gus. I just wanted to be sure that you no longer wanted to speak. And if you do, star 9. I just didn't want, I wanted to make sure that you were either, if you intentionally brought down your hand or if you didn't. So we'll keep going. And if you do want to speak, please put your hand up because we have 2 more people to go. Okay. Ralph Mitchell. Sorry for your name.
Yes, Ralph Mitchell, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Sir, please raise your right hand.
It is.
You solemnly swear the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Ralph Mitchley, Ralph Mitschele.
And your address, please.
1501 Ocean Avenue, and not affiliated with SAW.
Okay, thank you. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. I have not been able to attend all the meetings that have occurred here, but I have attended a couple and have had an opportunity to ask both planner and architect some questions. A number of times in listening to testimony and asking questions direct, this application and this applicant has been very arrogant in refusing to answer a number of questions, as was recently pointed out by another speaker tonight. No operation of hours. We have no idea how long this place is going to be operating. There's a number of concerns. Noise. This is an open air facility. What's to prevent the noise from transmitting all over the area? We now have a cacophony of sounds coming from Anchor Bend and Berkeley to be added to this. The fumes of the cooking. You guys tried to get a food truck court at the end of 6th Avenue that we had to fight, and then was properly and more accurately replaced in the location it currently is located at. Much better. Same with this application. This is the wrong place for this facility. Let them put it in front of 1101. That's where it should be. They have completely abdicated, as the city has, in the issues of parking. They say they don't have to require any parking, none whatsoever. The height of this structure is far greater than what should be allowed, and I believe requires a variance, especially for the elevator shaft. They tried to use the boardwalk, as another speaker mentioned tonight, and I mentioned to the planner, as the frontage. Yet the application mentions Ocean Avenue as the frontage. That's where the heights should be measured, not from the boardwalk. Arrogant again. You must vote no. There is nobody that I know of on this planning board or in the city council that lives within the block of the ocean. Certainly not in North Beach. Those of us who moved here and invested in this property and in Asbury in 2007, we were somewhat pioneers. There was still not a very desirable location here. Now, to be rewarded for this, you want to put in a pool club which has no operation of hours, no limit on the amount of people to be there, no parking provided whatsoever, yet the city takes away all of our permit requirements. When we were first moved here 10 years ago, we were able to park just about anywhere. Now the city keeps restricting our parking almost every year to less and less, and now you want to put in a facility that there's no place to park. I beseech you and empathetically ask each of the planning board members, you're our last line of defense. You are our neighbors. Put yourself in our shoes. Suggest that you live here and want to look at this facility and deal with the noise, the fumes, the lack of operating hours facility, and parking is outrageous. We beseech you to not vote this application forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. I see that Gus has found his way back to us. So Gus would be next in line.
Okay.
How do you do? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, the name is Gus Rofanos.
Okay, please raise your right hand.
Right hand's raised.
You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Gus, G-U-S, Orfanos, O-R-F-A-N-O-S.
And your address, please.
I have two addresses, 1101 Ocean Avenue, Asbury Park, and 1501 Ocean Avenue, Asbury Park.
Which one do you live in?
1101.
Okay, fine. Are you a member of SAW?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you, everybody. I've had the pleasure of listening to a lot of good insight from the community here. I'm glad to see what a wide net this is cast, and the diversity of input in this. That said, I'm very disheartened by the length of time that this process has taken. And as much as I'd like to, well, let me backtrack. I don't appreciate how long this has taken. It's more of a reflection, I believe, not so much of the developer iStar, but in the way that things are being conducted and perhaps have been over many years in Asbury Park. I'm not a new resident here. I'm only a recent newcomer over the last 4 years, but I'll be very honest with you though, the way things have been conducted is very, very discouraging. Had I had a choice, I'd actually think twice before moving here. That said, I have enjoyed moving here and I appreciate where I live and the people around me. I would like to ask the committee to renegotiate the location of this pool club. I'm not against it at all whatsoever, but what I am against is its location. I don't think it's necessarily a kind thing to do to a neighbor and locate one building's pool club in front of another building. I think in this case, it may be a good idea to do so. And it should come more at the expense, at not iStars, but Madison Marquette. For those of you who are unaware, Madison Marquette owns the vast majority of the boardwalk. They have neglected the structures. They have been negligent in trying to upkeep the integrity of the structures that we see right now on the boardwalk, and that includes the convention center, which is probably only a few major storms from floating out into the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, that level of neglect, I think, should be rewarded with them being relieved of some of their property and perhaps at the very least swapped out with the property that iStar is looking to place their pool club. I asked the board to consider something like this. It may sound outlandish, but I'll be very honest with you. It's not nearly as outlandish as the level of neglect that I see across the street throughout the buildings in the boardwalk under the ownership of Madison Marquette, especially the convention hall, which is the iconic building of Asbury Park. In addition, I would like to see our board be more accountable and listen a little more closely to the community. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. We have one more member. Last three numbers are 350.
Yeah, Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5B, the Santander, Asbury Park. Lived and owned there since August of 2007.
Excuse me, Mr. Mignoli. Please raise your right hand.
Okay, it is.
You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, could you please spell
So,
the name for the record, please?
Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5D, Asbury Park, New Jersey, the Santander, 07712. So,
spell your name.
Okay. Is this coming out of my time?
No, everybody else has been asked the same questions.
I didn't hear. Okay, MIGERNEST, MIGNOLI.
Okay. Are you a member of SAW?
No.
Thank you.
Thank God I'm not. Thankfully.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Mentioning SAW, I'd like to say that it's come to my attention that what I consider one of the problematic people in my building, Santander, was on the board, happens to be the lawyer Stuart Lieberman. And he's an EPA lawyer, and it's hard to believe that my building, Santander, is allowed to pollute so much when for many years we had an owner on the board there, Stuart Lieberman, although it's actually in his wife's name, so he wasn't even supposed to be on the board. But anyway, so now we find out Mr. Lieberman's involved with SAW, and then SAW is involved with in Bradley, and they pick up a similar, excuse me, it relates to this pool. Okay. Okay.
Excuse me. Please submit comments.
I am. This is my comment. This is my comment.
No, it's not.
It
about
is about
the application. Andy,
listen.
Andy, listen to me and mute him. I want to speak. Mr. Mignoli, speak about the application, not about Mr. Lieberman. He's not on trial, okay? If you're not going to speak about the application, you're not going to be permitted to finish your comments. Please come back online, speak, say anything you like about the project itself, good, bad, or indifferent. We're happy to hear it. Unmute him, please. Andy, you can unmute him.
Relative to the application, I'd like to say, like I've heard other people say, I'm very dismayed by the board, the city professionals, like Mr. Serpico especially, because no matter what tack certain people take, critics like me, we're interrupted, disrespected, and we're homeowner taxpayers. I live right next to this pool that I don't want there. It blocks view. It's going to horribly affect the neighborhood. It's a travesty to the people that live there, knowing that all around that poor building, that North Beach, you're going to be approving other things. Eventually, you're going to box that place in. So I empathize with the people who own there. I feel for you what you're going through, but I don't think the place to get any understanding or empathy is from the city, the planning board, the zoning board, etc., or the city officials, the city professionals. Where it's going to come is all of us sticking together, making our point, and this project is so wrong for this location. It could only be summed up by when I think it was Mr. Gomez, the professional, spoke about the application. He called it hideous. He talked about how it's the wrong thing at the wrong time. It looks like something from outer space, and yet, iStar seems to have so many followers in Asbury, our neighbors, who, when we talk about this on Facebook, they come after any of us who are against this pool. Like, we're against Asbury. Well, we hate the resurgence of Asbury. But no, this thing is the wrong thing in the wrong place by the wrong people, in my opinion. And it's horribly, horribly not diverse in a sense that the Monte Carlo pool stood for something in Asbury. It was for everybody. It didn't have any walls around it. It stood for everybody. This stands for a few people who will probably be coming in electric cars from 1101. And I think the application is misrepresented. I don't believe most of the factual statements that the lawyers for iStar or Asbury, all the 12 names that they use, is factual. And you don't get a chance to call them on it, to Oprah and get records without being destroyed by the board, the planning board, and the city professionals. It's like you all work together. And the rest of us, the taxpayers, we have to fight against people that we elected to help us. I mean, you get muted, you get told you asked the wrong question, then you let other people ramble on. You're very selective about what you do. You want this pool, it's the wrong pool, and I think even if you do vote for it, the city should be sued for colluding and conspiring with the city professionals, the city attorneys, and everybody, and iStar, and I don't care who iStar thinks they are trying to dominate this city and turn it into their vision when there's 15,000 of us that were here first. And besides, I also think that this contract that iStar and Asbury Partners and everybody refers to, think about it. The whole mayor and council was arrested. The city manager went to prison for 5 years who signed this redevelopment. So every time you tout it and you get these shifty lawyers to come in and say, why you can do it because of the redevelopment plan, that plan was signed by felons. They went to prison. And I defy Mr. Mayor on the planning board to say that that didn't happen. So Mayor Saunders, Hamilton, Condos went to prison, Terry Weldon went to prison.
Mr. McNally, your 3 minutes are up, plus some.
Thank you, I appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I don't see any more hands up. Can I get a motion to close public comment, please?
Motion to close public comment.
Second, Moore.
John Moore, second.
Correct.
Okay, roll call. John Moore,
Yes.
Von Clayton,
Yes.
Michael Manzella,
Yes.
Jennifer Souter,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
Yes.
Eric Alipo,
Yes.
Rick Lambert,
Yes.
Barbara Krizak.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, at this point, Jack?
Yeah.
The next step here?
Closing arguments and summation by counsel for the applicant and the objectors. First would be Mr. Lieberman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Serpico. And thank you to this entire board. I feel like I'm going to lose family members after this application is over. The only thing is that I've got a few comments for you. I want to thank the board. I want to thank my clients. I want to thank Ms. Smith as well for her very professional job that she's done here. When the redevelopment plan that gave rise to this poorly conceived project was put together, George W. Bush was president. Postage stamps were 37 cents. A loaf of bread was $1. Gallon of gas was $1.35, and a dozen eggs were $1.03. A lot's changed since that time. And the Asbury Park that people envisioned back in 2002 isn't the Asbury Park that we all have now. The Asbury Park that we have now is one of the most desirable locations in the entire country. Every magazine says it, everybody knows it, but people couldn't really even imagine that in 2002. It was a big question mark. As you all know, there were several false starts to try to revitalize Asbury before, and finally it took root. And now we have a glorious, wonderful place. But you know, you might have heard tonight that I do own a place here. I think you've heard it about once every meeting from one of the other people that makes comments. And I do. And I thought I knew a lot about Asbury, but I didn't know about the history, the sad history. There is a sad history. And I didn't know about it until I attended the February 3rd meeting, the public meeting here in this case. And it almost brought me to tears, and I'm sure it had an impact on everybody. I do this all the time. I go to planning board meetings and zoning board meetings all over New Jersey. I've never heard testimony like what I heard before. You can deny this application if in your heart you feel you should deny it. You have the ability to deny it. You can deny it because what's called for in the CAFRA permit is a public beach club. And you have here, you could find, isn't a beach club, it's a private pool. You could make that determination. And that basis alone is a basis for denying this application. I'll talk about that more a little later. You could deny it because there's no parking, and you could conclude that there is an insufficient basis by the applicant for trying to convince the board that they don't have to provide parking. Certainly, in the redevelopment plan, either private pools or public pools aren't exempt from the parking requirement. And so you have a right to deny this application. You could deny it regardless of what the TRC did, because as Mr. Serpico knows, because he was involved in a case in which this was ruled, what the TRC does is largely procedural, but you ultimately have the ultimate authority over site plan approval, not the TRC. You're the ones who by state law make this decision, not the TRC. You can do it despite the fact that the applicant asked CAFRA if this applies and if this permit is met, because you're a permit holder also, and because we can all read and you can read, and there's no question that the CAFRA permit requires a public pool, not a private pool. And this is absolutely a private pool. It isn't a public pool. So you could deny it. But let's talk about why all of those things matters. Why does it matter that this isn't a public pool? Why does it matter that it's a private pool? Well, I go back to February 3rd, 2020, and I heard Dwayne Small testify. And Dwayne said they want to come here and put a beach club here and divide the community even more. You know the history down there. A person like me could not go down there unless I was working. But once I was finished working, I had to leave. Or you could deny it because of what Teresa Jones said on February 3rd. We are now at a point in time where we're going backwards. The city of Asbury Park is more segregated than it was in 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I'm telling you that as an older adult, I'm a little older than what I appear to be, and I've been around. It's more segregated than it was 40 years ago. You could deny it because of what Felicia Simmons said on February 3rd. How can we approve something where we don't know exactly what happens? I've heard murmur through town that it's just a bunch of wealthy people complaining about their view being obstructed. But in all honesty, it's a community saying that we don't want it. It just doesn't fit with the plan and we want something different. We're not opposed to development, even though I've seen a development literally move out families who have been here for generations, stores who have been here for generations, a change in waterfront where homes and where people lived has been turned into parking lots. Or you could deny it because of what Ms. Healy said on February 3rd. It's very apparent to all of us in this audience that iStar uses the language of beach club because pool club would be too overly reminiscent of the racist pool clubs of the not too distant past. This pool club isn't Asbury Park 2020. It might be what they thought Asbury Park might have been in 2002 when a loaf of bread was $1. But it's not our Asbury Park now, and it shouldn't be our Asbury Park later. So many people of color have been moved out of communities so that redevelopment can occur. So many people who are socioeconomically disadvantaged have been moved so that progress can occur, and it has. And what's happened has been wonderful, but we have to realize not our past, but our recent past. And our recent past hasn't been great, and we have to do better. And approving this project takes us just in the wrong direction. I mentioned that this is a pool club and not a beach club, and I refer to Mr. Rodriguez's testimony, who said that in his view, this is clearly a pool club, not a beach club. Now, let me tell you what he reminded you. You can't even see the ocean from inside the club. There's a big wall. You can't see it. Oh, wait a second, everybody. I gotta plug this in or I'm gonna lose you. Just wait 1 second, hold on. Let me see if I can do this. Hold on a second. All right. There must be a lesson here somewhere. Make sure your computer's plugged in. Thank you. What Mr. Rodriguez said was that you can't even see the ocean when you're inside the club. It's quite clear that this private pool club has been designed so that people can't see in, consistent with the concept of exclusivity, consistent with what shouldn't be on some of the most valuable real estate in Asbury Park. The reality is that that pool club could be at the furthest reaches of Asbury Park, nowhere near the ocean on the other side of Main Street, and it would be just as functional as it is where it is. It could be in Hohokus, New Jersey, and it would be just as functional as it is. It has zero to do with the beach. You can't access the beach. There was a time when there was a plan that you could, but you can't. You can't even access the beach from this. It is not a beach club. We can call things whatever we want to call them. The applicant is free to call it whatever it wants to call it. But we don't leave common sense at the door when we check in at a planning board meeting. We all know it's not a beach club, and it's not public, it's private. There's going to be membership charge, and it's going to be exclusive. We also don't know, and the CAFRA permit required that it be public. We also know nothing about the operations. And some of the people have called iStar arrogant. Ms. Smith is not even close to arrogant. She's not arrogant. And I think the presentation was generally fine. But one thing that's clear is they never told us about what's going to happen at that beach club. There were questions asked. We don't have to tell you. That was what you were told. It's not part of this process, and we don't have to tell you. The applicant won't even admit to you that they're going to have a liquor license. Boy, they were pressed on that. They won't even admit to you they're going to have a liquor license. But the pool is 4 feet deep. Do you really think this is a swimming club? Or is it a party place? Is it a place where people with money are going to come, where they're completely walled off from everybody else and party with music as loud as they want it to be for hours that we don't even know when it's going to end, all lit up until who knows when? We don't know anything about the operation or what impact it's going to have on the people who live next to it, and that's wrong. These are people who had the courage to buy in Asbury when it was courageous. And now this nuisance is going to be moved next to them. It's not right. It shouldn't happen. I talked about parking. The issue of parking is relevant and it's germane because in this zone, you're supposed to have on-site parking unless there's an express exception. There's no exception for pool clubs. There's no exception for beach clubs, private or public. And what's going to happen when people drive here and take up spots on the road? Well, parking's already a nightmare. We already know that. And so what that means is day trippers who want to come in, they're not going to have parking spots. And quite frankly, it's probably going to result in a violation of the public trust doctrine. Whereas a custodian and trustee of this resource, you're going to be giving up parking for a private beach club. And that's not right. So there are a lot of problems with this beach club. It's not Asbury Park today. Maybe it was Asbury Park in 2002. It's not a public beach club. It's maybe a private pool club. It's maybe a private party club. We don't know because they won't tell us. We can only imagine that there's going to be a lot of alcohol. They won't admit it. It's not in the record, but we have to imagine because they won't answer questions. They won't even tell us if they're going to apply for a beach club, but wink, wink, wink. Who here honestly believes they're not going to? It's a private club. It shouldn't be here. It's not Asbury. It's in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm asking you to deny it. This application shouldn't go forward. I thank all of you for your courtesy and for giving me your time. And unless you have any questions, I rest.
Thank you, Mr. Lieberman. All right, Jack, next.
Unless there are any questions from the board members of Mr. Lieberman, it would be Ms. Smith's turn.
Thank you, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. I would like to start by thanking the board members for its patience during the long haul that has been this application. By my count, this is the 13th day of the public hearing process, just at the planning board alone. You have heard testimony over these many months from Gary Handel, our professional architect. He came before you twice. You've heard testimony from Sean Delaney, our professional engineer. He came before you twice. You've heard testimony from Tom Bauer, our landscape architect, and Keenan Hughes, our professional planner, who came before you twice as well. We've had public questions after every single witness, and even again when they came back a second time. We've had public comment twice, once in February and then again tonight. And while I appreciate Mr. Lieberman's comments and I appreciate the comments of the public, I would like to sum up by coming back to the board's jurisdiction and what the board is permitted to do and what the board can review. This is an application for preliminary and final major site plan approval. Under the municipal land use law, section 46 to be specific, it says that the planning board shall, if the development complies with the ordinance and the municipal land use law, grant preliminary site plan approval. There's a similar provision in section 50 of the municipal land use law, stating that the planning board shall grant final approval if, and I'm paraphrasing this part now, if the submitted drawings conform to the established standards by ordinance. It's consistent with case law. In Shim versus Washington Township Planning Board, an appellate division case from 1997, it stated a planning board's role in considering a site plan application is circumscribed. The object of site plan review is to assure compliance with the standards under the municipality's ordinances. Thus, ordinarily, the denial of a site plan would be a drastic action where the pertinent ordinance standards are met. The court in that case indicated that it was never intended, that the planning board's powers were never intended to include the legislative or quasi-judicial power to prohibit a permitted use. And that's what it comes down here to today. Although many neighbors have spoken about the process and about changing the law, the planning board right now can only review this application under the current law, under the current waterfront redevelopment plan. The planning board also does not have the power to send this back to the council. The planning board only has the power to approve this application if it's consistent with the waterfront redevelopment plan, or deny this application if we have not met the standards in the waterfront redevelopment plan. The waterfront redevelopment plan supersedes all other zoning provisions in the city of Asbury Park. In fact, on page 68, section 3.8, it says, as provided for in NJSA 40A:12, the development controls in this redevelopment plan supersede all applicable provisions of all other Asbury Park development regulations, including zoning requirements for the prime renewal and the boardwalk area. Therefore, this board, although I know you are in a tough position, this board can only focus on what the waterfront redevelopment plan permits and what the waterfront redevelopment plan requires. So let's start with the use. Mr. Lieberman has suggested that this is a pool club and not a beach club, and therefore it's not permitted under the waterfront redevelopment plan. The objector's planner suggested that this board should look to Long Branch or other municipalities for how to define a beach club, and even suggested that to be a true beach club, the application would need to actually propose structures on the public beach. To be clear, this application does not propose structures on the public beach, but it still does meet what a beach club is under the waterfront redevelopment plan. The waterfront redevelopment plan contemplated this exact use, a beach club, in this exact location between 6th and 7th Avenues. On page 23 of the waterfront redevelopment plan, it says, and I quote, "A new private beach club will be developed on the boardwalk between 6th and 7th Avenues in a manner that will not limit pedestrian mobility along the boardwalk," end quote. The only requirement for the beach club is listed on page 69 of the waterfront redevelopment plan. And it says, and I quote, that a beach club, quote, "shall not restrict public access to the boardwalk or the public beach." So the question before you is whether this proposed use on private property restricts public access to the boardwalk or to the public beach. You've heard testimony from Mr. Delaney and from Mr. Hughes and others that there are two pedestrian walkways, one on either side of the building, running between Ocean Avenue and the boardwalk, specifically to allow pedestrians to traverse from Ocean Avenue to the boardwalk, and then from the boardwalk, they will have access to the beach. No structure is proposed on the boardwalk, and no structures have been proposed on the beach. Mr. Hughes and both of the board's planners agree that the use is permitted in this location. Importantly, the council, the legislative body that adopted the waterfront redevelopment plan, already made a determination in March 2019, stating in a resolution adopted, quote, "Developer's proposal complies with the redevelopment plan, except for waivers sought for fenestration by the planning board," end quote. And you can find that in Exhibit A53. The applicant specifically recognized and put this resolution in its public notice. So the public has been aware since March of 2019 that the council already made this determination. No one appealed that determination. Thus, the record before the planning board cannot be more clear. This is a permitted use that meets all of the requirements for the permitted use, and it is specifically permitted for this location. And last, that the council has already made a determination that the use is permitted for this property. We turn then to the bulk requirements. There are only two bulk requirements that apply to this application. One is for lot area, one is for lot width. There's been no controversy on either one of them. The lot area required is 15,000 square feet, and provided is 23,396 square feet. And lot width, the minimum required is 100 feet, provided is 248.2 feet. Moving on to parking. The question becomes, what does the redevelopment plan require? The parking requirements are spelled out on page 50 in section 3.5 of the waterfront redevelopment plan. Parking is required for residential uses. However, for commercial uses, the only use that is explicitly required to have parking is a hotel, a motel, a rooming house, or equivalent. The redevelopment plan then states, quote, "The following commercial uses are not required to provide off-street parking: auditoriums, stadiums, theaters, arenas, and places of assembly." And then it goes on to list a series of others. Now, SAW retains a planner, and that was Mr. Carlos Rodriguez, who came in to testify in December of 2019, and his testimony carried into January 27th of 2020, which does seem like a lifetime ago. But Mr. Rodriguez was specifically asked, and you can go to the tapes and watch, and this is just before the 26th minute of the hearing that evening. He was asked whether the proposed beach club would be considered a place of assembly, and he agreed that it would. He said, "I believe I recognize that it might fall under that category." And I asked him, "What is the parking requirement for a place of assembly under the waterfront redevelopment plan?" And he responded that there is none. So Mr. Rodriguez agrees. Mr. Hughes testified similarly. The two planners that had been engaged by the planning board both agreed there is no parking requirement for this use under the waterfront redevelopment plan. The board therefore cannot impose one. As for the design criteria, when Asbury Partners originally applied to the planning board, it requested several waivers from the design criteria set forth in section 3.8. And as I mentioned in the resolution that the City Council adopted in March 2019, they mentioned that those waivers were for fenestration. After public comment in February 2020, applicant revised the facades to bring them into full compliance with the waterfront redevelopment plan. The board's original planner determined no waivers were required. Out of an abundance of caution, the board requested a second report from Insight. Insight determined no waivers were required. Mr. Hughes came back to testify and was asked whether any waivers were required, and he said no. And I will say that Mr. Rodriguez was not asked by SAW to come back, but even in his original report that was submitted, he had not identified any waivers as being required, even back at the time that he testified. So therefore, you have three planners in this case who have all looked at the waterfront redevelopment plan and all agreed that what is being proposed before you complies with the design criteria. Therefore, the only approval that we are asking for is for preliminary and final major site plan approval. Now, we've also heard this evening about various environmental issues, things like stormwater control and flood control, that seem to all roll up into CAFRA compliance. Now, at the beginning of this matter, we did not yet have the DEP's thoughts on the issues. In fact, the DEP asked the applicant to provide information over time, which the applicant did and copied to the board. But on February 21st of 2020, the DEP, after reviewing all of the plans and submissions, confirmed that the proposed project complied with the requirements of the CAFRA permit and all the relevant NJDEP requirements. Now, I will add that this project, as you heard in testimony from Mr. Delaney, was designed to the current preliminary FEMA map, not the map from 2002. And it was designed to meet the stormwater regulations that are in effect, but were in effect as of February 2020 when the DEP issued its compliance letter. The board therefore must trust that the NJDEP has reviewed this matter, has found the stormwater to meet all requirements. Finally, there's been questions about sound. This property, like every other property, is subject to the State Noise Control Act. This board cannot alter or waive those requirements. They are what they are, and any person who comes into Asbury Park and builds has to meet them. Just along those lines as well, we heard earlier this evening that this project's also going to be reviewed by the building department if it's approved. And the building department has its own jurisdiction and it will review the plans. This board is not the last board that will review everything from the perspective of meeting building codes. So in short, This application meets the requirements of the waterfront redevelopment plan. It's the permitted use in a permitted location that meets all of the applicable requirements. This board therefore must approve the application based upon meeting all of the requirements of the waterfront redevelopment plan. And I do thank you for all of your time in listening to us and listening to the public and in moving through this application methodically over the course of the last almost 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, what I would ask, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, I would ask that you and Mr. Fichter, Jason, to provide us with some guidance, as I've asked you to do.
Okay. Okay, my opinion is as follows. Insofar as the use is concerned, I've read the redevelopment plan. Let me back it up. I've read the redevelopment plan. The way the procedure works under the redevelopment plan, and Mr. Lieberman, I'm sure he's talking about one or two of the cases from a number of years ago where someone tried to circumvent the process and apply directly to the planning board for site plan approval without going through the process of redevelopment agency, TRC hearings and the like, and the courts upheld the procedure. The initial jurisdictional question of whether or not something is a permitted use is in every case decided by the redevelopment agency. First and foremost, it would never get to us if it was not a permitted use. It would have been flagged at that point. I have no doubt in my mind that the page 63 of the redevelopment plan that was quoted by, I believe, Ms. Smith, clearly page 23, states that a new private beach club will be developed on the boardwalk in this area between 6th and 7th Avenue. Furthermore, it couldn't have possibly been, as Mr. Rodriguez suggested, if it were a beach club, it would have to be on the other side of the boardwalk. Structures on the other side of the boardwalk are prohibited. At page 90 of the redevelopment plan, 7:7 uppercase C-3.22 beaches states essentially that development is prohibited on beaches except for development that has precluded, I think it's precluded or is precluded or from a feasible alternative. Essentially, we're talking about unique structures such as the casino and the convention hall. So there's no way that DEP or anyone else would allow a beach club to be on the opposite side of the boardwalk. So I have no doubt in my mind that this is a permitted use under the redevelopment plan. Parking, I'm going to let the other strictly planning issues be addressed by Jason, since he in fact is the planner. And as far as the situation of, I get the request to send it back. We have no authority to send it back. Our jurisdiction is clearly to decide site plan. If we can grant or deny based on the facts and the law before us and the presentations, but we cannot just say to an applicant, we're not going to deny or approve you. We're going to refer this back to the planning board. That's not within our power within these circumstances. So we have to make a decision one way or the other. If we fail to make a decision within the time prescribed by the municipal land use law, except if it's been extended, which in this case it's been extended and extended and extended, an application could be deemed approved for lack of movement on the part of a board. But we do not have the power to refer this back to the mayor and council. Lastly, I noticed that there were a number of comments made this evening, which were well taken, about noise and the like in the conduct of what may go on there. Clearly in Exhibit A53 on page 2, under the section now therefore be it resolved by the city council acting in it, and this is the referral resolution over to us. City council anticipated excessive noise, and in subsection 3C says that the club when operation will comply with applicable city noise ordinances in the State of New Jersey Noise Control Act, and it quotes it, and associated regulations adopted by DEP so as to prevent excessive noise from transmitting beyond the property lines of the property. So our task is also to ensure that it should be part of any approval, if this project is approved, that there will be compliance. And one of the findings of fact in the conditions of approval would have to note that the applicant must comply with applicable noise ordinances and or statutes and or state regulations. So that issue does have to be addressed. It cannot be ignored. Other than that, I would defer to Jason for his opinion regarding whether or not any additional design exceptions or bulk variances would be required, or what his take is on the uses proposed.
Yeah, I don't think so. Everything has been said tonight. I put out my letter. That's my comprehensive planning review of the application. I think it is clear in the waterfront redevelopment plan that this use is permitted on this property. It's been a couple of years of design iterations. The design criteria waivers, they've all been worked out. Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing to say that hasn't been said already, other than the use appears to be permitted and the design seems to be in accordance with the waterfront redevelopment plan, which is the prevailing regulation for this project.
All right, so Jason and Mr. Serpico, you're concluded?
Yes.
Any questions?
Unless the board has questions of me.
If the board has anything that they would like to ask questions about, let me just be clear as to process, just so that we understand where we're going here. The intention here is to not, and I repeat, not have a vote today. The intention is that we have all the input that we've received from all the comments from all the public. We've heard the closing arguments. We've heard guidance. I ask that our board members look back on their notes of all these meetings we've had. I believe that it was stated that we had 13 meetings. There are comments that I'm sure that you've made notes of, and everything that we've heard today. We're looking for a deliberation that's going to happen in the next meeting. The whole planning board will be deliberating. They'll be bringing back all of their thoughts from all of their notes, all of the hearings that we've heard, all the comments that we've heard. And we're going to come back and we're going to be deliberating as a group in public about what our thoughts are and what our questions are or where we stand. That's where we're going. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask today, that's fine. But and maybe I should ask Mr. Serpico, the process that once we start deliberating, can we ask questions of any of the council, or is that over?
Well, the council will be there, I'm sure.
But is the board allowed to ask questions?
Yeah, of the attorneys?
At that point.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think there'd be any objection from Mr. Lieberman or Ms. Smith if the board had any questions for them during their deliberations.
Not at all.
Yeah, and clarification. I absolutely, and me as well. Yeah, I mean, you gotta, this is a massive file and there's a lot there. So I fully expect that members of the board are going to have some questions.
That's exactly why I'm asking for the board to go back, look at everything that they have, look at it, and I mean, as we know that after 13 sessions here, we have a lot to think about. We have a lot of input to review.
Yes.
So let's take a serious look at this, as we always would. And if anyone has anything for Mr. Serpico today or our board planner, Jason, Feel free to ask. John, do you have something?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Jack, you kind of answered the noise question, but how about the other concerns as far as like hours of operation, months of operations? Could it become a wedding venue? Could it become an ice skating rink? When do we ask those questions? Or when do you tell us they can or can't be?
You wouldn't have, you had opportunity to ask those questions when the witnesses were present, such as turning it into something else. The only thing the plan permits there is a private pool club, not a ice skating rink. And whatever goes along, whatever goes along with what you would consider to go along with the use of a private pool club is permitted. Nothing else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as alcohol, that's. I'm sure there'll be hearings on that if there were such a case. Nothing's been proposed, and it's not part of the application.
Okay, I'll go back to what some of the people said tonight and everything. I believe those questions were asked in the past and not answered, so I'm just throwing that out there. I know we're having another meeting. I know that would be deliberations. So Barbara, you don't want comments now, you just want questions.
No, just any questions that you might have at this point would be great. I mean, if you need something more, but we're going to be doing the same thing during deliberation next week. So that's when I really want everything to come out. I mean, if you have something right now, that's fine too, if you want to ask a question, but we're really looking for the deliberation to happen next week, at the next meeting, and we'll use the full meeting to do that.
Okay, then I'll just be very brief and say, I disagree. I wish not the cities, the planning board's planner would look into page 63 again, building frontages, because as much as the applicant calls the east side of the boardwalk the rear yard, I totally disagree with that. And that means, if I'm correct, and language says the frontage of the building is a primary contribution to pedestrian activity. The frontage is that elevation which faces public streets or public open space. I mean, the boardwalk is a public street and public open space in my estimation. So I'm looking for clarification on that at the next meeting. And again, as some people have said, the north and south side are just blah, empty, like cement walls. But to me, the east side is a very long blah fence. It doesn't have to be a fence. It has to be breakaway, but it could be made of any material. So again, I think we held the applicant's feet to the fire and said we're not happy with the east side, how it looks. And they corrected the east side, and it's very, very nice now. But I still think, I'm not going to use the word, some people use the west side, I'm sorry, the west side's fine now. I'm not going to use the word the east side's ugly, but it absolutely does nothing to me. And so that's a big hurdle for me to vote yes on it, when it's our duty, I think, to make this like pleasing to everybody as per the plan. And at that, I'll leave the rest to anybody else, and I'll say the rest at the next meeting. Now, one quick thing I'd like to correct, and I can't believe Warner and Rita wouldn't say, oh yeah, that's right, Moore's been here forever, and he was at those meetings in 2002. So I just want the record to indicate that. Thank you.
This is Mike Manzello. I couldn't agree more with the mayor, and I know that we don't want to get into deliberations tonight, but I think that it should be known that I have also the same reservations. My one major reservation left with this project is the boardwalk facade, and whether or not that is a frontage that fronts open space, public open space, and how important it is to get that right. So I think I just want to put that on the table as well, that I agree that has to be further considered. One question for Jack. When it comes to usage conditions, do we have the opportunity to place any conditions on the operation if the board finds so, whether it be hours or?
Unless there's something in the site plan ordinance or, within the redevelopment plan, what criteria would you use to establish hours? I mean, what law do you go to? There isn't. So
Right.
you'd be working off of a set of subjective standards. Planning boards, unlike a zoning board in deciding variances, there's always some fluidity with that whole area of the law, but site plan is fairly technical. If an application meets the site plan ordinance, or you want to grant deviations from it, you can. but you can't just impose a set of arbitrary standards that you just can't do that unless the underlying ordinance gives you the power to do so.
Thanks.
And the council in the referral resolution, you should definitely follow what's in there because they're the higher power in this case because they're the redevelopment agency. That's why it goes to them first. If there's some suggestions that they told us to consider, we should consider them and impose some conditions of approval.
This is Rick. I have a question. It's related to the east facade as well. So in the planner's report, it's an interpretation of what the frontage is and which is the main, requires more articulation than any of the other facades. But are we allowed to give our own opinion of what we think to dispute that interpretation?
What you think the plan means?
Well, to dispute that interpretation that that's the only side that should be articulated, because I think the east side is equally as important as the west facade, and it opens to I consider the boardwalk a public space, and it should be.
The staff gives you recommendations and their opinion, okay, on their take on things.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to agree and abide by our take on what it says. If you disagree with us, we're here to give advice. And we give you the advice that we think is correct, but you may take issue with that and you may think differently, which is your prerogative as a board member.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right, great. Thanks.
Obviously, if I see a board member going to violate the law, which I truly believe is clear cut, that's a different story. My job is to, not let it off a cliff, but it's something that isn't subject to interpretation. One way or another, we'll give you our recommendations as planners and attorneys and engineers and the like, and then it's your choice to make.
Okay, thank you.
There's an item here that I heard and I'd like our board planner to kind of take a look at this. And that's fine for our next meeting, or just some clarification, because there was mention of the height variations having to do with the east side of the building versus the west side of the building, where's front and back. And there was some question of sometimes we're considering the height of the 15 feet, and sometimes we're considering the height on Ocean Avenue as taking precedence here. So I need to just get a little clarity there because that confused me. So I'd like if we could just get some clarity on that. And next time is fine, but I just want to give you a heads up.
We can go into it in further detail next time if you like, but there is a section of the waterfront redevelopment plan that defines the permitted height in this block. And I'm going by memory here. It's 3 or 4 stories or something like that, but they're within what's permitted, and I can provide further clarification.
Yeah, I'd like that because there was some mention of it being a 1-story, and it had to be higher than 15 feet, and we were using the east side height as opposed to the Ocean Ave height. So I'd just like to get a little clarification on that. And I know that even though we did cover it a little bit here, having to do with hours of operation, the noise levels, that really things that I have to say, and Jack, keep me on the rails here, is that we have to state that they have to comply to noise regulations. I guess that if there's certain scents that are coming from the kitchen, they have to deal with that. You're only allowed to have a certain amount of people in this location. All that has to be complied to, but that's not necessarily something that the board can really doesn't oversee. We can state that they have to, but correct me if I'm wrong, that we can't say, oh, the hours of operation have to be 9 to 5. We can't. I'm just asking if you could give us some.
But there are other agencies that will pick up where we leave off in terms of.
That's where I'd like for next time, I'd like that type of clarification because many of the public have asked questions about noise capacity. And we'd like to kind of get that solid down to say, all right, who is going to ensure that those laws are not being broken? And it's, and if we have to put something in the resolution or if this gets approved, fine. But we need clarification as to what can happen because clearly during this process, many people have asked, and I understand that the applicant does not necessarily have to provide that information to a planning board.
There is a state regulation for noise that's very defined, very black and white with numbers and decibel levels at the property line and such. As far as enforcement, if somebody believes that it's exceeding what's permitted, then in my experience anyway, that offended party, I'll call them, would provide some information to the zoning officer. I don't know that they have jurisdiction, but this is what I've seen happen in the past. And what needs to be done at that point, and this is my point of bringing it up, what needs to be done is somebody needs to go study the noise at that property line. It's not as simple as standing on the property line with a noise meter and saying you've exceeded 50 decibels, because you have to account for the cars that are passing by in the neighborhood, the airplane that's going overhead, the people talking on the boardwalk, that kind of thing. But the point is, and by the way, this came up years ago when the beer garden was in front of the planning board. Noise was a major issue for that application. And it was the same thing then. There's a state code and it's inflexible. There's no variances from it. You have to comply to it. That's it. If it's exceeded, enforcement is an option. And the beer garden, if they were proven to be exceeding the noise levels, they would have to mitigate that. So that's just a little insight on noise levels.
All right, I can tell you that our next meeting, I will be asking about, and if you listen back, and I encourage our board members to listen back on some of the comments that that the public have given, that I think that they do deserve to understand who has oversight on some of these issues that they have concerns about. And so I just like some clarity on those things so I will be asking that next time we get together. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to say? Any comments, anything from the planning board members before we leave? Anything?
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to, our next meeting that we can have to review and deliberate is January 25th is the next meeting that we have an opening for the planning board. So can I get a motion to carry this?
Oh, the Madam Chairwoman, I'm sorry. Just
go ahead.
We're seeing on the screen January 11th.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it wouldn't be January 11th. That's our reorg meeting, as well as we already have another application during that time.
Okay.
Just be sure, because from what I saw, it would not be the 11th. We have 2 other applications on that day besides the reorg.
I just want to make sure the public is given the correct.
I'm sorry, it would be on the 25th of January.
And do you have the Zoom information to put up for that?
I would have to ask APTV. Is the Zoom information the same?
It's going to be different now.
Okay, so all right, how do we deal with this then?
Well, if we don't, we just have to tell the members of the public that it's going to be on that date without further notice, assuming they're all still listening, and it will be posted.
Yeah, it'll be posted on the city website as well.
I'm just, Madam Chair, I'm taking one moment just to see if it already has been posted.
Sure.
Just bear with me for one moment.
Sure.
Let's see. No, not yet. January's calendar is not up yet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so the next meeting, can I get a motion for the next meeting for this to be carried for January 25th without further notice?
And we would need the consent of Ms. Smith to extend the time within which to decide the case until that evening.
I will consent to this being extended to January 22nd at 7 p.m. to be a virtual-
25.
25.
January 25th
Yeah.
at 7 p.m. to be a virtual meeting with the Zoom information to be posted on the City of Asbury Park's website.
Thank you.
So moved, Mike Manzella.
Second, Yvonne Clayton.
John Moore,
Yes.
Yvonne Clayton,
Yes.
Michael Manzella,
Yes.
Jennifer Souter. Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Alexis Taylor,
Yes.
Eric Gallipo,
Yes.
Rick Lambert,
Yes.
Barbara Krizak.
Yes.
Okay, application carried for deliberation to January 25th, 2021 without further notice with the proper posting on the city website and all the other requirements under the current regs.
I'd just like to take just one moment to thank the public for attending, and for providing your comments. It's very much appreciated. And thank you to the board and the professionals and the applicant for hanging in there with us. This has been a long process, and I appreciate the respect that all of you have provided to each other. And we will see you again on the 25th. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Rick.
Second,
Second.
Michael Manzella. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting's adjourned. Happy holidays and a happy and especially healthy new year to everyone.
Same to y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
All right.
Night.